Vanessa for Crafty Gemini Creates, and I'm back with another fun project for you. This time we're working on this really cute hanging kitchen towel. You can see that we're going to be working with buttonholes today. We have a hand-sewn button, and this project is a great quickie gift idea, and I think if you have a machine that has decorative stitches and buttonholes and you've never tried it, I think you're going to want to try it to make this cute little project. So let's get started. The supplies and materials that we're going to be working with is a towel of some kind. You can see this one is more of a hand towel, a terry cloth one. And then the sample that I'll be working on in the tutorial is to show you how to make it out of a tea towel. Now the fabric that we're using is from a collection called Vintage Made Modern by Amy Barrickman for Indigo Junction. And then remember that there's always a link in the description box below the video on where you can find the materials and supplies that I'm using in this project. Okay, so we have our fabric for the hanging part and we have our towel. Now the tea towel that we're using here, let me show you. Most of these come in kind of this basic generic size. I think this one measures maybe like 20 by 28 or something like that. Now from one this size you can make two of these hanging kitchen towels, which would make a super cute hostess gift, I think. I cut it just right down the center. And the reason I do that is because if you look at the finished kitchen towel or a tea towel like this, all four sides are finished. They're already been hemmed for you. They may have some type of embellishment, so that way you don't have to worry about finishing those edges. Now if we chop it right down the center, you'll see that the other three sides are done, and on the other one they're done as well. So we take advantage of that so we can crank through the project a little bit faster, okay? So here's the ones that I've made from this one tea towel. You can see I chopped it in half. This edge is finished, this edge is finished, and this one is. On the raw edge where you cut is the side that we're going to go ahead and gather this up, because if you look, this part is a little bit more narrow than obviously the full width of our cut. So before we jump into tucking in our towel into the top, let's make the hanging part. Now you'll see also in the description box below that I've included a downloadable PDF pattern for you to download, print out, and cut out. This is what you're going to need. The fabric that you'll be using, you'll want to cut out 2 of these units. Now, if you're using kind of a really lightweight fabric, I would recommend using some type of lightweight fusible interfacing on the back, maybe like a Pellon Shape Flex. I like to use a lot of starch, so I find that for me, that kind of works for this quickie project. I am layering these 2 up pretty sides touching so we can get ready to sew them up. And what I'm going to do here is show you kind of a little trick that helps make it easier in the next step. I've placed 2 pins right here. Head over to the ironing board. I'm going to flip the bottom edges in about 3/8 of an inch, just like a little bit bigger than a 1/4 inch, and we're going to press that in place. Now the pins are holding my fabric steady, so I can flip it over, and that way I don't really have to measure with a hemming tool or anything. I just can look to see where the fold is on the bottom one that I just hemmed, and that way you end up with both perfectly turned under, so you know they measure exactly what you need. Which that part is going to be key when we go to tuck in our towel and top stitch it. You want to make sure that you're stitching through all the layers, the top fabric, the towel fabric, and then also the backing fabric. The worst thing is to kind of look at it from the front, it looks fine, and you look on the back and you're missing the piece. So definitely try this little trick when you try this project. Let me grab this, just trim off those little edges right there. Then we're going to head over to the sewing machine, and you're just going to straight stitch all the way up and around. Leave the bottom part that we just folded. You can just leave it as it is, open. So 1/4 of an inch around. You can see that I have a sample here that's been done already for you. After that, because we have some curves, we need to clip these curves. If you have pinking shears, go ahead and grab those. Right here in this curve, I'm just gonna do a few little clips. You don't want to go all the way up to the stitch line because you may cut into your stitches, and that's no fun. So I'm just going to do a few clips here, and then I just take the pinking shears and go around any of the other lighter curves. So we'll come around here, reducing some of that bulk so it's easier to kind of flip right side out. All right. After that, you're going to flip the whole thing right side out through here. Now, if you don't have any kind of a turning tool, I find that just putting my thumb all the way up in here, grabbing it, and then working it out. You can use a pen, a chopstick, whatever you need to just push it all out, and then take it to the ironing board and give it a nice press. So here's a sample of what that looks like. Okay, so just give it a nice press. This one looks good already. And then at the bottom edge, you'll notice that because we turned this under, we no longer have to kind of try and fit it in there. When you flip it right side out, it's already done for you. A nice crisp edge, you won't have anything wobbly, so make sure that you do this step before you get to this one. Now, in here, we have our towel stuffed inside, so let me show you how to do that. we are taking this to the sewing machine. Well, I've already done it, but let me show you. Just about 3/8 of an inch or 1/2 of an inch down from the raw edge where we cut the tea towel in half, you're just going to run a basting stitch. And a basting stitch, if you have a computerized machine or one that has different decorative stitch options, you're just going to want to set the stitch length to the longest one. So whether it's a 5.0 on your machine, whatever it is, do that. And make sure that you leave tails so that you can pull. So there's tails on both ends, okay? You don't want to trim it flush, and you don't want to backstitch, just a nice long stitch. I'm going to reach to the back here and just grab one of my threads and just start gathering the fabric up. And I only do one line of stitching. I know some people do two. You can also use a ruffler foot if your machine has that kind of accessory. But I find that just to save time, I can just do it with one. And I did it the same way on this tea towel and even on the bulkier terry cloth towel, and it worked just fine. Just don't yank on it super hard so you break your thread, okay? And you just gather it up until it's kind of gathered enough that it will fit inside the opening of the hanging part. And that way you kind of get more even gathers when you do it that way. So in this one, I would gather it a little bit more and then tuck it inside the opening. In here, what I do recommend you do is tuck it in at least about 1/2 of an inch in. That way when we top stitch this together, we can guarantee that we're going to catch all 3 of those layers. And because we folded our hems under the way that I showed you, you can see that they're going to pretty much be even. So I don't have to worry about catching on the back side. I just want to make sure that the towel is high enough in there that I'll catch the towel. So I've placed some pins going vertically just so I can kind of line it up and get it how I want it. And now we're going to head over to the sewing machine and top stitch this down with a basic straight stitch. And this part, the seam is not too long, so just take your time because you do want to make sure that you're getting those stitches right where they need to be and you're catching all 3 layers of it. So I'm going to, my stitch length is about a 2.5. Take a few back stitches real quick, and I'm stitching close to that bottom folded edge. All right, so that looks pretty good, and I'm using a white thread just so you all can see it in this video, but you can see how close to that bottom edge I am. We'll flip it over, and you can see that it's all pretty even. Not bad, okay? Trim away any excess threads, and now we are ready to tackle the buttonhole. So don't freak out, give it a try. Here we go. We need a buttonhole foot. There's a lot of different ways, depending on the machine that you have, on how you can make a buttonhole. I'm working on a Baby Lock Catherine here, and I've had several different types of before. So chances are, if you have a newer machine that has some decorative stitches, that you probably have something that works like this. It's got a 1-step buttonhole. And here goes. We're going to pick out the button that we want. And I love this option because you're not limited by the size of the button. There's a little option. Okay, first I'll walk you through here. Where these little kind of red marks are, that is where it's actually going to be stitching. So when you look to the back part here, this is a little thing that kind of goes up and down. And this is where you're going to put in the button that you want to use in your project. So I think let's do this kind of big light purple one. You place your button in there and then squish it together so that it holds the button. And what this is doing is it's gauging the size of the buttonhole, of the button, so that the machine can stitch the appropriate buttonhole for that size button. So you're not going to end up with a little small buttonhole for a huge one, okay? So it's all going to be relative, and it's going to match up nicely. So that's nice and secured in place. I'm just going to snap this into my machine. These snap-on feet are great because you can just pop them all right off. And we're going to snap this here. Now there's an option right here. There's like this little thing that you need to pull down to engage the buttonhole, okay? And it needs to be behind this little knob. So there it is. Now on my machine, I'm going to go ahead and select a basic buttonhole, and there's some different ones. You can do some decorative things, but we're going to line this up. And you can make some marks. For this type of a project, it's not a big deal. I know that I just want the buttonhole to be somewhere up here. Not too close to the top edge, but not too far down. You can just eyeball it. I think this is a great little project just to try it out because you only got to make one buttonhole. All right, so we're going to start off, and I'm just eyeballing it in the center. I think that will work fine. I have my buttonhole. Everything is engaged, and now I can just stitch. And don't hold on to anything. The machine is doing it. You can see, hands-free. And you'll see how it stops. It kind of goes back and forth. And it's the size of the button on the back that's telling it where to stop or continue stitching. It tacks itself down into place. All I got to do is cut my thread, come on over here. Let me grab my button. And you can see how nice that is. It's just a little bit bigger, so it's big enough to fit the big button through. Now, it's not open in the center, so this is a part where you need to come in here and cut it. Here's a tip. I like to place a pin near the end. I just kind of weave it through the fabric like this. And then I'll take my seam ripper to cut this. And what this is doing is it's going to allow me to cut through the buttonhole, but it won't let me cut these anchoring stitches here so that I don't have to redo the whole thing again. So just poke your seam ripper in at the top and just slide it through. When you get to that pin, you know you're done. And there is your completed buttonhole. Super simple, okay? Now, on this part here, let me trim these threads. Now, you just have to figure out where you want to put the button. And I like to do it right where this kind of top part starts to flare out a little bit. I find that that's a good measurement for me. And then you just go in with a hand sewing needle and some thread and just hand stitch this button right into place, like I've done to this one, okay? Just like that. So hand stitch that into place, and then you slip your button right through there. You can put it over the handle of your oven. You can hang it anywhere else that you want to, and you're going to have a handy little towel ready for you to use. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial, and if you did, hit it with the thumbs up below, share it across the different social media sites, and don't forget to click the subscribe button so you won't miss out on any of my future videos. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.